I'm going to pull my good buddy Andre to come up. And I want you all to give Andre a hand for it. So initially what I want is to give a general overview of the incident that actually happened. What were the circumstances? What were you doing? How did it happen? And the event and what happened and how you dealt with it. And then we'll bring up Marcus and then we'll do like a Q&A kind of thing.
Okay, well, I'd like to kind of talk a little bit about my background.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm married. I have 3 kids. I have a background in security. I did security for 9 years. I did personal security for about a year. I probably have been carrying my firearm for probably about 3 years. And I have a background in martial arts, self-defense, personal protection, all before this incident. I'm also an NRA certified CPO instructor and an NRA range safety officer. This happened after I got into instruction after this incident. So my incident actually occurred probably 4 years ago, around December 1st, which is around Christmas holiday season, which I call knock 'em in the head season, because you go out there and they're trying to knock you in the head. And during security, most of the incidents I've actually dealt with and had occur have been around the season. So this particular night, December 1st, I happened to be going out with some co-workers of mine. 2 co-workers, they invited me out to go out that night, and I decided, you know, I'm going to get some cash so I can go out to, I think we were going somewhere in Novi or something. So I proceeded to go to the credit union that I'm a member of and use the ATM. Now the ATM is in the vestibule in the building. And because of my security, because of my martial arts background, I'm usually pretty aware of my surroundings. So as I'm pulling to the credit union, I took the alley, I went down the alley, I surveyed the whole area, I looked in the parking lot, I looked, once I got out of the car, I went into the vestibule, no one was out there. Quiet night, dark, probably about 9:30, and as I go into the vestibule, I get out the car, nobody's out there, I get my cash, I go back to my car, which was parked in the parking lot, and I'm sitting in my car, and I'm feeling like I shouldn't be sitting in this parking lot. I'm feeling like something's wrong. And I literally did something that I don't normally do. I lowered my sense of awareness for a few seconds. Because I was meeting 2 friends and I was supposed to be meeting one friend at his house and he was supposed to drive, I'm trying to contact him and text him like, where you at? I need to meet you at your house and I don't know where you stay at, and he's not getting back to me. So I'm in my car texting, which is something I almost never do in the parking lot. And I proceeded to put my navigation system on the glass, and I'm thinking I'm getting ready to pull out of this parking lot and go somewhere where there's a little more traffic. As soon as I think that, bang, 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 someone's knocking on the glass of my car while I'm sitting in the car. I've only been in there for about 3 minutes. I hadn't locked the door. The car hasn't been started, and someone's banging at my window like the police with a bandana on their face. And I'm in the car like, oh crap, I know what this is. Now mind you, I was going out that night, so I'm dressed real nice, you know, I'm looking all Miami, you know, and got my shirt and tie and stuff on. So that particular night, I probably looked more like a victim that night. So 2 guys ran up, 1 guy's at my side, 1 guy's in my blind spot, and I'm like, crap, they picked me as a victim. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, how am I going to get out of this? And this guy's got his hand in his shirt, he's like super close. I'm like, I have to figure this out, I have to get out of this situation. And it's like split second, stuff is running through your mind, split second. Now being that I was a carrier and I had mentally set in my mind, if I ever were to get carjacked, this is a situation where I may have to shoot out of my door. So it's one of them situations where if somebody's already got a gun drawn on you, how do you deal with that? How am I going to get to my firearm, and this firearm is already on me, and I'm dealing with two people, and they're yelling at me and they're saying, get out the car, give us your money, we got a gun. And I'm like, all right, I gotta stay calm, I gotta figure out a way to get out of this situation, because I'm thinking, I hadn't locked my door, the second guy's starting to open the door, and I'm like, if I'm gonna use my firearm, I have to use my firearm in a way where it's last minute, where they're not gonna know that I have this firearm. And I'm trying to decide on, well, we'll go back to this. So I'm carrying my firearm back here, which is actually a place that I actually usually don't carry my firearm, but because I was dressed real nice, I'm carrying my wife's 9mm back here. And they're yelling at me, give me your money. So I'm like, well, if I'm reaching back here, they're just gonna think that I'm going for my wallet. So a lot of people think when you're in a self-defense situation that you actually have to pull your gun out real fast and draw and fire, but if someone has a gun on you, a lot of times you have to psych the individuals out. So I proceeded to fake compliance. So I'm like, okay, and I'm reaching down, and I'm like, I'm blocking so they can't see me. Second guy, I don't know what he's got, and I lean back and I start firing out the window. And the glass shatters, the glasses hit me. I'm actually thinking that I'm getting hit with return fire because the glasses hit me, and all I could think is, I'm leaving you with more than you leave me with. And the situation happened where the guy took off running. I'm still firing. I see the guy get about a couple yards and he hits the ground, and I'm like, oh man, I hit him. I'm like, my night is all messed up. The second guy took off this way. I don't know where he is. I get out the car. I got this adrenaline in me. I'm like, oh my God, my night is messed up. I want to go home, but I can't. I'm like, I gotta call 911. I gotta let them know something happened. And I don't know where none of these guys are. The guy that landed on the ground just gets up and takes off. So you might actually hit the guy and he get up and leave. You might not have stopped him. And I fired all 7 rounds out of this pistol. I thought I hit him with everything. So now I'm like, okay, I messed up my night. I'm like, got caught unaware. I called 911. I'm speaking to 911, and I'm at the credit union. The adrenaline is so real, I could not even remember which streets I was on. I'm like, I'm at such and such credit union, at such and such and such. Please send help. And 911 is going to ask you all kind of questions. I'm like, it's been a robbery, 2 guys tried to rob me, it's been a shooting. Sir, are you hit? I'm like, no, I'm okay. Like, sir, did you shoot? I'm like, please send help. They're like, sir, do you have a CPO? I have a CPO. Did you hit anybody? I'm like, please send help. Now, 911 is calling the police. Literally, the police station is a block down the street from this credit union. I could walk to the police station. It was that close. The police get there, female officer arrives. I'm on the phone still with 911 giving them a description of me, so when the police get there, they don't see me and think I'm one of the assailants and draw their guns on me. By that time, I had my gun down on the floor, I had the magazine out. The officer gets there, she's like, what happened? I'm like, 2 guys tried to rob me, 1 guy's got a bandana. She comes up, she kicks my firearm across the concrete. I'm like, and she asked me, are you okay? I'm like, I think so. She's like, are you hit? She's like, I see a little blood on you. And I'm like, literally, all I had was a little tiny cut from the glass. I'm freaking out, the adrenaline dump is in me, and another car gets there and they go take off and try to find the guy. So, literally, when the adrenaline is your system like that and you're coming down and you've had a life-threatening situation like this, you're like, your body's in shock. You start doing this, and it's not fear, it's just adrenaline. You're coming down, and I'm talking to the officer, and I'm telling him I had to use my firearm. I never thought, I was gonna have to use it. The officer's asking me questions. I never said that I shot him. And they'll ask you, how many times did you shoot? And luckily I did know because I emptied my magazine. But you have to be careful, that you're telling them say I shot 5 times. or 2 or 3 times, and then now they find out I shot 7 times. Now my story doesn't quite fit right with what I actually said. And they asked me, well, did he have a gun? I'm like, they said he had a gun. Did you see a gun? No, I didn't see a gun. I saw him with his hand in his shirt like this, and they're yelling at me, we got a gun. I have to assume he has a gun. And the officers understand that. The officers have to deal with that when they work. So I'm under adrenaline, I'm kind of like freaking out. I'm like, I never thought that I would ever have to use my firearm to defend myself. Even doing security, I've had some life-threatening situations, and I never thought that I would ever have to use my firearm to defend myself. And it's interesting because even when I did security for all those years, I was unarmed. I dealt with every situation by verbally de-escalating it, by some way trying to get out of the situation, trying to psych my person out, the attacker out. But this was an incident where it happened so quick, it happened so abrupt, because I lowered my awareness for that brief moment and did something that I never usually do. I never do this. And it's something that it really caught me off guard. And they actually did catch the guy. I hit him twice. They said, I hit him in the hand and in the hip. So apparently I hit him non-lethal. But the interesting thing is, I fired 7 times. People said, you can't do it, with 7 you can't do it. Well, when you're in a real life situation and you're using your firearm, you never know what the scenario is. You may not have time. I don't have time to aim. I can't, with the training that I do have, I can't say I've ever trained to fire sitting in the car sideways like this. There's no way to aim. I can't do this. So that's a scenario that I never thought that I would have to do. And as close as the gentleman was, I swear, I hit him with everything. I hit him twice. So now I'm freaking out, They've left. I'm out there by myself. I'm on the phone with 911, please send help. And I'm thinking, wow, if they come back, I have no more ammo. I have no other way to defend myself. So learning from that incident now, when I do carry, I carry extra mag just because of that. Because there may be a scenario where you come into contact with criminals that they might just, look, we coming back. I don't know if the second guy was armed. I never saw the second guy. And my incident, I tell my incident because it was a learning experience for me. It is a teachable moment. I teach other people. I tell them, you never know what's going to happen in this type of situation. You can't mentally prepare for it totally, but the biggest thing I got from it is you have to have the proper mindset. You have to have a mindset that when you go out, that there's a possibility that something can happen. You have to, it's not paranoia, but you have to walk throughout your day thinking, well, if something was to happen, how would it happen? And play it out in your mind. And because I'm so used to playing those things out in my mind, it mentally prepared me to react instead of freeze. Because when the adrenaline hits you, you have fight, flight, or freeze. And I decided to fight that day. I had that personality like, I have to fight. If you're going to take my life, I'm going to fight to keep it. Because I looked at the scenario like this. If they pull me out and they find out I have a firearm on me, they can still shoot me and rob me. They can shoot me and rob me now. So I had to come up with, my only way out was to use my firearm at the last minute to protect myself. And it's very surreal, very, how it plays, you're under adrenaline, you're kind of like, your mind will start to, fill in what happened, in the story or whatever, and I wind up having to go to the police station that night and fill out an actual incident report. Normally we teach you, not to actually speak to the police officers or whatever, but because of my security background and writing incidents and stuff like that, I straight to the point, no making anything up. This is what happened. this is what they said. My situation actually worked out for me where I didn't have any legal issues or ramifications because it was so cut and dry. The police officers were cool. They got there and they were like, basically, they picked the wrong person that night. The police officers told me that. And I get to the station, which is right up the block. Yeah, you want any water, you know, anything? It's like, turn the TV on, there's some crime show. I'm like, no, turn that off. I'm like, I don't even want to deal with this right now. I mean, and the sound of firing a firearm in your car